Okay, so is loyalty really a thing, or is it now just data-driven customer engagement? You know, personally, I absolutely love it when I go into a shop and I'm buying something and I find that I get a discount on something that I would have paid full price for. Or I suddenly find I've been gifted a bunch of points or rewards and I haven't been told why. Neither of these loyalty initiatives have actually made me change my behaviour at all. But I tell you, they've definitely cost the retailer some money. I also find it incredibly frustrating, and I'm sure you do, when my time is taken up with a communication to, say, buy another fridge from the same company that I've just bought a fridge from. Or, you know, I get an email reminder, as I did a week ago, to have the dog's teeth cleaned when I literally had done it the day before. Yeah, to be honest, I actually no longer even take a sneak peek at half of the communications to me. And that's unless I've had a really rewarding, consistent, great experience from the brand, and I've actually learnt about that from the communications they've put in front of me, the connections they've made. And I think I can say safely, go on, put your hands up. Who agrees with me on that one? Yeah. Yes, exactly. I think we can tell from that that we've got perhaps a little bit of work to do. What I want to talk about today is achieving those meaningful contacts with customers. Okay. My name's Lizzy Riley, and I'm the CEO of Loyalty New Zealand. We're a business that is steeped in data and analytics, and we have been obviously running the Flybuys program for 25 years. We also are really focused on our data and analytics side of the business. Flybuys has 2.9 million members, and we have 80% of New Zealand households, so you can imagine the data that we have. We're now AWS fully cloud-based data platform, and we've fully implemented a new marketing automation stack. We're also, and importantly, well on our journey to having embedded a growth mindset culture, and it's steeped in data and learning. I know from experience, and I've had quite a lot of it, as you can see, that making meaningful connections with the customer will deliver value for the business. So we've been asking ourselves some pretty big questions. We set out to understand the state of loyalty and data-driven customer engagement in New Zealand from a business perspective. Because if you ask a New Zealand consumer, they're probably going to say something very similar to that which I said at the beginning, which you all agreed with me. We wanted to see if there was a way that we could actually shape the future of connecting with New Zealand consumers together with the New Zealand marketing community. We commissioned some independent research with a large number of experienced marketers to understand where New Zealand consumers were at and where the businesses are at in relation to them in terms of their loyalty and data-driven customer engagement. I'm going to talk a bit more about data-driven customer engagement as DDCE going forward, because otherwise it becomes a bit of a mouthful. We were really thrilled to collaborate on this work with Adam Posner. Many of you will know Adam Posner from his work for Love or Money, which is the Australian and New Zealand loyalty studies, and also with Jane Briggs from the First Point of Research out of Melbourne. Some of you in the audience today may even have participated in this research, and we'll be looking forward to receiving the report, which will be out in a couple of weeks. And in fact, any of you can ask us for the report. It's quite interesting, the insights. I won't go into it too deeply today. Just a wee bit about the respondents. As I said, experienced marketers, senior and otherwise, across New Zealand, from a really broad base of businesses and industries, small and large businesses as well. We uncovered 6 key insights. And guess what? Traditional marketing still gets more investment than loyalty or DDCE activities. Almost all businesses claim to be doing something in the loyalty and DDCE space. You know, whether that is a coffee card, collecting email addresses, or a full-blown loyalty mechanism. Mass emails are the core activity in loyalty and DDCE, with little sophisticated targeting or insight-based personalisation. Satisfaction is currently low with business performance in loyalty and DDCE. And, you know, good DDCE is really challenging. Specifically, the expertise and technology. I'm going to talk quite a bit about people and the aspects of data and digital transformation today to hopefully give some insights on ways it can be done more successfully. Despite the challenges, and this is the good news, marketers actually see a really bright future in loyalty and DDCE. So I know you've heard this morning a lot about what will the future of connecting with consumers look like. But I'll take you on a bit of a journey through our insights and hopefully impart some thoughts to empower better connections through DDCE, the way our customers expect us to as marketers of the future. There's a huge bombardment out there. So as I said, the first insight. More than a third of New Zealand marketing spend is still going on what in my heyday was called above the line mass marketing, you know, traditional marketing. And for larger organisations, that's actually 41%. I mean, 17% on data-driven customer engagement. 17%. And larger organisations, that actually reduces to 14%. That seems really small in 2023. We were quite surprised. And smaller organisations are spending more money, but they don't seem to be any more confident in the outcomes from it. You know, in my view, I think there's a couple of aspects for us to reflect on with this result. Firstly, I think this whole arena is perceived to be expensive, complicated, and really hard to achieve critical mass. And what's more, you haven't got a great TV ad to show for your investment. Do you know, I actually heard a CMO saying the other day, oh, we tried this and it didn't work. But actually, that was in Australia, so not here. We're all right. You know, there are so many stakeholders in our businesses. They're all interested in what us marketers are doing, and the challenge is wrangling them. You know, nearly 20 years ago, and I'm showing my age here, nearly 20 years ago when I came back from the UK and was appointed the CMO at Countdown, I was amazed that even though we had brilliant one-card data, we were still putting printed catalogues in people's letterboxes every single week and spending zillions on press advertising and TV. So with my team, we set about digitising the catalogue as a first step and setting up a data platform. Aside from the challenges and the sheer enormity of the tech costs, the digital and DDC experience and capability of my team, that was challenging. But hey, then there were the store managers. I don't know if any of you deal with store managers. I mean, unless they could see it on the telly or in the paper, and I guess today it's the same, further spread, but unless they can see it, I wasn't doing my job. And my CEO even had to sign off all the TV ads, because if it didn't pass his muster, then it was bound to fail. And this is not to mention the fact that our brands and stores were competing against each other. So, they were not even vaguely interested in us getting a single view of the customer. Because after all, that was going to take, maybe take some store sales away from them, from their store or their brand. So that was tough, and I'm sure those challenges still exist in the same way. So I guess it's really important that we get this thing right, or try to. So most businesses collect data in some form or other, but there appears, as I've said, to be little use of this data beyond building extensive sets of customer contact details. Don't you just love it when every shop you go into, they ask you for your email address now? And if it's a shop you go to regularly, they ask you for your email address and then they can't find you in the system. I don't know, it does my head in. So few businesses are collecting customer preferences either, ACCA my interests, and becoming a little too happy with the one-way traffic of email communications, or maybe not. And what a missed opportunity that only 1 in 4 businesses is augmenting their data with other sources. At Loyalty New Zealand, our data set is actually, we augment it, as an example, with data from CoreLogic. And this helps us to engage with people when they're moving home, ensuring that they can get better value from their expenses of moving house, which is pretty important. So clearly, there's a significant opportunity for us all to advance the strategic use of customer data in our marketing efforts. So, as I've just said, mass emails are the core activity in Loyalty and DDCE, with little sophisticated targeting or insights. I think what I'm really concerned about, and when you listen to what everybody's talking about, this is all accelerating at such a pace. And I think we're running out of time with our customers and them letting us take their data, because we're taking it at every turn and then we're not giving them the benefits. And it's, as I've said, it is accelerating. So why? Why is it accelerating? Customer expectations have changed. They're much higher, much, much higher. They know what's possible and they expect that from us. They expect us to show them that we know them as a valuable customer. It's so important. And they really don't thank us for taking their data and using it to annoy them. It's a huge opportunity as long as we listen to our customers and strive to meet their changing expectations. A while ago, I did a homegrown focus group with my daughter and her friends. I wanted to understand from that age group, what would make them join a loyalty program and allow it to contact them, because they're the least likely to join the loyalty program at the moment. And they described their end-to-end journey. Essentially, after having They would only sign up, it was a bit of a loop really, they would only sign up, but the contact they expected was something like this. They wanted the advice that their favourite influencer on Instagram was wearing the latest fashion sporting garment, and that the communication gave them a loyalty discount on said item. But then, of course, they expected it to be delivered within an hour, and they expected that delivery to be free. So then they said, and then the next communication better be a free subscription to the content, to some exclusive content from said fave influencer. And all of that had to be communicated through the channel of choice. Otherwise, we'd have missed out on them. So this would involve changes right across the business, right? I think. It tells us that data-driven digital transformation occurs when business decisions are made very differently, not just the customer-related decisions, but all of business decisions. You need to be digital, not do digital. And at this point, I'm just going to grab a drink of water and let you think about that. I really like this idea. It's from a recent podcast I listened to, a woman called Kate Smage. She talked about findings from a McKinsey global study into digital transformations. The bad news with the research was that only a third of digital transformations delivered return on investment. The good news was that you could point to the very clear differences that the winning businesses adopted or went about their transformation. And Kate summed this up as you need to be digital, not do digital. And there were three key hallmarks which apply, I think, equally to any kind of digital or data-driven transformation. Cross-functional ownership and delivery and purposeful cross-siloed governance is an example of being digital. I'm going to talk a bit more about this shortly. Having a cadence of planning and decision-making that is weekly or monthly rather than annual is a really common trait in organisations that have digital at their core. I mean, after all, what customer plans their life on an annual cycle? You know, we see differences all the time. And integrating really deep customer insights into these planning and decision-making cycles is really critical. And finally, embedding a strong learning culture and adopting a continuous improvement growth mindset will also help. Do you know, it took me quite a while, and I think I'm probably older than everybody in this room, it took me quite a while to understand that no person is an island. I was often too focused on delivery. I've always been really action-oriented to get stuff done. And I didn't always recognise the importance of building really strong relationships with my peers. I learnt the hard way that unless you engage regularly and widely in your business, you won't have supporters when you need them. You need to make sure your stakeholders understand, and I think us marketers, we can show the return. If we show the return on investment, we'll convince them of the value of the work. A very mercenary lesson I learned when I was the CMO at Countdown, and it was the same when I was the CMO of Woolworths Australia. You needed to have a strong collaborative relationship with the merch team. I don't know whether anybody else has got that going as well. The merch team had always access to additional funds. And, you know, they had them sort of in a bottom drawer. And if I could actually unlock that, which I eventually did through creating a great relationship with the then Murray Johnson, who was the chief merchandise officer, built a really trusted relationship, and suddenly we were working together and we were all unlocking this together, and it was really great. So don't go it alone. Build trusted relationships and partner with others. Now, this seems like a jump, but this is what it's all about. It's building those relationships. Take it time to deeply understand your peers and their challenges. If you don't do this, you're going to spend your life selling your digital or your data transformations. I think the key thing is that things will get challenging. You know it will. So if you make sure that you've done that, then they'll prioritise the decisions when you need them to. So digital transformation is, of course, built on data and the ability to leverage it. In practice, this means people using data to make or automate decisions. If your people don't understand how to use data, you've got a pretty big problem. By way of an example, a recent data literacy survey, that 70% of people said that a data literacy program was really important in the business. And 78% said personally they didn't need it. So the risk here is that in the absence of data literacy, people tend to rely on hunches and what they think is happening rather than data science. It's really important to know the difference in data between a hypothesis and a fact. So now I'm actually going to ask you to do a little something on your tables for a moment, give you a breather from me talking. I'm going to give you a story, essentially, in 6 words. And I want you to try and build a picture of what you think the backstory is from these 6 words. So I'm going to tell you the 6 words. For sale, you might want to write them down. For sale, baby's shoes, never worn. For sale, baby's shoes, never worn. That's a 6-word story often attributed to Ernest Hemingway. Anyway, spend a moment and think have a quick discussion about what the backstory is. Okay. Anybody want to volunteer their story? Okay. Okay.
So, well, we got 3 answers. They were too small, the baby grew too quickly. A gift that never got given because the friends fell out. And then the controversial one, the baby died.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah? Excellent, love it, love it. Okay, brilliant. The purpose of that was actually to give you an example of how we might build a story from data. The most tragic story is, of course, that the baby died very young. I love the one about the father. But these are just hypotheses. 4 different ones. You know, it could be a baby born with enormous feet, it could be the dad, it could be anything. It could be an enormous baby. I mean, I was 10 pound 10 ounces when I was born. So I think my mother would believe anything. Yeah, I think she probably was. So, yeah, so if we took that and then we went, okay, but we actually need to now have a prediction, we might start at this point gathering data to make that accurate prediction. But each piece of information we're going to find might send us up rabbit holes. We may cling to pieces of information, you know, convinced that they're right. We become fixated on things, you know. We create convincing, data-rich arguments to support our gut assumptions and so on. And we all do it because we just get really sold on an idea, you know. But, you know, to make an accurate prediction, there are so many decisions to make. You know, what data is important? How are you going to collect it? How are you going to describe it to each other? And how are you actually going to know what it's going to tell you? And what I would say then is that just said it all. Everybody needs to understand how to use the data. You know, data quality issues in businesses are increasing. Bias, accuracy, reliability, they're just increasing, not decreasing. And artificial intelligence and machine learning, which you've obviously been hearing quite a bit about, is only going to exacerbate this as the automated system inadvertently learns. And here we have the concept of rubbish in and rubbish out. And that's tough. That's hard. You know, at Loyalty New Zealand, we embedded a data literacy program across the enterprise. As CEO, I was kind of going, oh, really? Really? You know, but yes, critically important. Everybody in the decision process needs to talk the same language and have an aligned version of the data. And then we work with our partners, you know, their data scientists, our data scientists. Can we get an aligned version? Are we speaking the same language? And, you know, I'm going to do a little plug for us. Our results are outstanding. We can achieve returns of 5 to 1 for investment. And if you can put that in front of a store manager, it's quite a bit easier to get buy-in for that. So, satisfaction currently low with business performance in loyalty and DDCE. Back in the day, again, when I was leading loyalty and data for Woolworths Limited in Australia, I inherited an implementation of Unica, the then IBM customer decision engine. The tech was in, the money was gone, the team couldn't achieve speed to competency and were demoralised and looking for jobs. It was then that I really learned that this is about people, relationships, and process. The tech is just the enabler. And this is a lesson that we have leveraged at Loyalty. We don't have separate customer and data and technology strategy. We have one business and customer engagement strategy, and every initiative is linked to this. It's allowed us to move at a greater pace through all the inevitable challenges. Our chief data and technology and our chief customer and strategy officers are joined at the hip on delivery. They've got the same performance measures and make a point of both being able to speak to all parts of the program, whether it's line of business or tech or the technical elements. As I said, our research found that marketers believe that good DDCE is challenging, particularly expertise and the technology elements. It didn't really surprise us at all, and I think it does point to a possibility that we get caught out with tech for tech's sake. It's a constant focus for us working with partners to ensure that all tech and data initiatives deliver value and have a clear linkage to the overall enterprise strategy. We established and continue to lead a multi-year program to pursue data-driven customer engagement. But at the same time, we've actually reduced our annual planning to big room planning cycles triannually. And for good measure, we have a little one every month as well. The flow-on effect to the business has meant that we have successful cross-functional teams working under an umbrella of a dedicated program. And it's actually become a really strong internal brand in its own right. We call it Loyalty is Personal, or LIP for short. And, you know, I think it's the next thing you need to do is make sure that the people who make decisions with the data are as close as possible to the data so that they can get the most out of it. You've got to have done your foundational work because the team has to trust the data. If they don't trust the data, they can't work with it. You need to put the necessary guardrails and transparencies in place so that they can work safely with it. It's really important for people to be able to ask questions safely, to try, and to fail. No such thing as failure, actually. It's just a smart way to learn and to begin again. As an example, we've implemented a new marketing automation technology which enables us to bring the marketer in direct contact with the data instead of having an analyst pull appropriately targeted whatever. It sounds easy, but you know, it's much harder because you've got kind of the campaign marketers need to have a significant upskilling on the nuances of the data because otherwise the correct selections aren't made and the correct data isn't pulled through. In addition, we need to bear in mind that campaign marketers are more or less interested in this side of the marketing communications remit. They might be more or less capable, they might be more or less knowledgeable about it. So whilst it might seem like a technology implementation, it's actually much more about people management, training, communication, and change management. And yet, even with all of that, we've had lots of near misses at LNZ, Loyalty New Zealand. I'll give you a little example of one where we had a near miss. We wanted to deliver a communication to play back to the member how many flybys they had earned in the previous month. However, the technical team understood that this was how many flybys the customer had received in the prior month. Note, earned versus received. We're not talking the same language. This meant that the campaign as coded would have been incorrect. It would have been wrong and it would have resulted in a confused customer and very unhappy partners. It was actually picked up prior to deployment because 2 members of our team took the extra step to actually reconcile the Flyby's test campaign with their own personal behaviour. You know, they looked at it and they ascertained that it wasn't correct. And this is what you're looking for. People who have mastery and autonomy and passion in their work, because that drives them to take that additional step. And it also points to the importance of the language of all the teams understanding how to talk about the data. Are we using the same language? So I fully understand why marketers in our research are finding expertise in both expertise and tech the most challenging areas. So how do we overcome the challenges? I think you actually just have to ignore all the hype, all of this stuff. There is an industry out there driving a continuous stream of new end-to-end data-driven customer engagement and digital technology possibilities. My advice, and believe me, I do have the battle scars. Don't get distracted with a shiny new tech thing. You'll end up having spent a lot of money, and you might not have delivered anything. No improvement to customer experience, demoralised team, struggling with the data, and consequently fleeing to cultures where they can be more successful. All the while, you're going backwards with tech debt on legacy solutions. So, the good news is that the solution is actually simple. The bad news is that it's not easy, a bit like smoking. It's a simple solution, you've got to stop. Staying there is not easy. If it was easy, we wouldn't be facing the challenges we're facing, and you wouldn't be sitting here listening to me. I reckon you just start small and iterate. Blasting your email base is not going to help. And for all of the leaders of teams out there, don't make your expectations too high, or your teams are going to be forced to cut corners to get something out to market, and the cycle of discontent is only going to go into a loop. Start by solving something simple that you can solve. If you've listened and engaged widely, you'll know what the business and the customer needs are. Don't just throw tech at it. Do the prep, learn the business and the customer needs, and work backwards to what you want to deliver. Work with partners who are happy to not put tech first. It'll likely be a really basic start point, standardising or optimising something. It's fine. It's just the first step on a journey. I think about my daughter when she learned to read. She's dyslexic. And, she was getting more and more difficult books, but she still didn't know her alphabet. So we had to take her back to the alphabet again. And maybe you might need to think about that. So, a pretty pleasing final insight. Despite the challenges, marketers see a really bright future in loyalty and DDCE and plan to invest more in the future. We personally are really excited about the prospect of working in an industry with a shared ecosystem that moves beyond traditional loyalty and has best-in-class DDCE at its heart, delivering value to New Zealand consumers and growth in New Zealand businesses. So I'll leave you with a couple of things. Hei aha, te mea nui o te ao, hei tangata, hei tangata, hei tangata. The most important thing in the world are the people, the people, the people. You need to focus on building a culture where these really clever folk that are super hard to keep and find, or find and keep, and they can be wildly successful in your businesses and feel like they belong. And I do think that it is about being digital rather than doing digital. Thank you.